Greetings, readers. Welcome to the first June edition of Library News. June welcomes the start of summer, a season full of possibility, exploration, and maybe a little extra time to enjoy a good book. In this episode, we discuss summer programming, Bard Top 10 Nonfiction, and much more. Another youth summer reading program is upon us, and we are very excited. This year's theme is Unearth a Story, Unleash Your Inner Explorer. Programs will be conducted virtually on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 1 to 1:45 p.m., beginning June 8th. Join Denise Bean, our youth librarian, for Arts on Mondays, Investigation on Wednesdays, and STEM Fridays. For more information, go to iowalibrary.blog.
Also this summer is Thrive Thursday, Career Lab Series, where real talk meets real connections, running from June 11th through August 6th. This series is designed specifically for young adults ages 14 through 21. Whether you join us in person at the library or tune in virtually via Zoom, you'll spend your Thursdays from 2 to 4 p.m. building a personal career toolkit. Enjoy guest speakers as they talk about their careers. In June, participants will learn about culinary arts, wellness, and therapy, and entrepreneurship. For more information, go to iowalibrary.blog.
The library is proud to announce that there is a finalist from Iowa competing in the Braille Challenge Finals. Con T is a finalist in the sophomore group. He has been invited to compete at the national finals later this month at the University of Southern California in Los Angeles. Participants from the 2026 season represent students from 37 U.S. states and 6 countries: Australia, Canada, Ireland, Kenya, and the United Kingdom, and the United States, highlighting the continued global growth of the program. These students earned top scores among the 2,000 competitors who took part in this year's Braille Challenge season. Congratulations to Con.
The fifth stop in our 2026 Pickabox journey was London, England. London is the only city to host the Summer Olympics 3 times, in 1908, 1948, and 2012. Most recently, the 2012 Summer Olympics brought the world together for an unforgettable celebration of sport, culture, and history. The 2012 Games blended tradition with modern flair, from historic venues to newly built stadiums in East London. The opening ceremony, directed by Danny Boyle, highlighted British history, creativity, and humor, featuring everything from the Industrial Revolution to a memorable appearance by James Bond and Queen Elizabeth II. Do you want to learn and read all about Olympic host cities? It's not too late to get signed up for Pickabox. Call the library to get signed up today or go to iowalibrary.blog.
Now for Top 10 Nonfiction Books downloaded from Bard. Unseen, How I Lost My Vision But Found My Voice, DB 134008 by Molly Burke. From social media star and changemaker Molly Burke, a vulnerable, honest, and darkly humorous memoir on navigating the challenges of being a blind woman in a sighted world. When Molly Burke was 4 years old, she was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa, a rare degenerative eye disease that leads to eventual blindness, forcing her to see the world through new eyes, literally. Growing up disabled didn't stop her from playing sports, becoming a rock climbing instructor, or winning a beauty pageant. But other people's narrow perceptions of her held her back. Years of relentless bullying, toxic work environments, a rodent-infested apartment, and life's lowest moments were juxtaposed with red carpets, first-class flights, and personal and professional achievements. Throughout her life, Molly has learned to appreciate the duality, and most importantly, she's learned the beauty of being unapologetically yourself and standing up for what you truly believe in. In Unseen, Molly chronicles her journey as a disabled woman, entrepreneur, and entertainer, illuminating what her experiences have taught her and what she hopes others can learn from her hardship and success. Part memoir, part rallying cry for a more compassionate and empathetic world, Unseen recounts Molly's life and experiences, fighting against the expectations society set for her and, in doing so, helps readers find their own voice, inner strength, and self-acceptance. Windows Screen Reader Primer. All the Basics and More, 3rd edition, DB 121117 by David Kingsbury. This book is meant to help beginning and intermediate JAWS, NVDA, and Windows Narrator users work more efficiently with the most important PC applications, like Microsoft Office, email clients, and web browsers. These applications include the Windows operating system, the 4 primary Office suite applications Word, Outlook, Excel, and PowerPoint, and the 3 most commonly used web browsers, Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, and Mozilla Firefox, Dropbox, OneDrive, and Google Drive for desktop. The 3 most popular cloud-based file sharing programs are also covered. So too is Adobe Acrobat Reader for accessing PDF files and participating in scheduling and hosting Zoom meetings. Appendices, including a list of keystrokes, a glossary of over 100 definitions of computer-related terms, academic style guide requirements for formatting Word documents, and a set of practice exercises. New topics since the second edition include a chapter on using the most popular Google Workspace applications, an introduction to artificial intelligence, AI, and audio and video editing. When I Fell from the Sky, the true story of one woman's miraculous survival. DB 134795 by Julianne Kepka. She was 17 years old on a Christmas Eve flight 40 years ago to join her father for Christmas when the unimaginable happened. The Lockheed L-188A Electra, on the way from Lima to Pucallpa, flew directly into a thunderstorm. A strike of lightning left the plane incinerated, and Julianne Diller Kopeka, still strapped to her plane seat, fell through the night air 2 miles above the earth. Her survival is unimaginable and considered a modern-day miracle. Her mother was among the 91 dead, and Julianne the sole survivor. For 11 days, she crawled and walked alone through the jungle, fighting for her survival again with hunger and despair. Her only companions as maggots ate their way into her wounds. Julianne ultimately survived and went on to live an inspiring life as a scientist, continually drawn back to the terrain that threatened to take her. On the 40th anniversary, she shares not only the private moments of her survival and rescue, but her life in the wake of the dramatic true story.
Ain't Nobody's Fool, The Life and Times of Dolly Parton. DB 134275 by Martha Ackman. Ain't Nobody's Fool is a deep dive into the social, historical, and personal forces that made Dolly Parton one of the most beloved and unifying figures in public life, and includes interviews with friends, family members, schoolmates, Nashville neighbors, members of her band, studio musicians, producers, and many others. It also features never-before-seen photographs and unearthed documents shedding light on her family's hard-scrabble life. More than anything, Martha Ackman's fresh and animated new book proves Dolly Parton knows just who she is, and she ain't nobody's fool. Wings, the story of a band on the run. DB 134456 by Paul McCartney and Edward L. Widmer. An engrossing oral history of a band that came to define a generation, Wings, the story of a band on the run, tells the madcap story of Paul McCartney and his newly formed band from their humble beginnings in the early 1970s to their dissolution barely a decade later. Drawn from over 500,000 words of interviews with McCartney, family and band members, and other key participants, Wings recounts, now with a half-century's wisdom, the musical odyssey taken by a man searching for his identity in the aftermath of the Beatles' breakup. Soon joined by his wife, American photographer Linda McCartney, on keyboard and vocals, drummer Denny Sewell, and guitarist Denny Lane, McCartney sowed the seeds for a new band that would later provide the soundtrack of the decade. Organized chronologically around McCartney, Ram, and the 9 Wings albums, the narrative begins when a 27-year-old superstar, rumored to be dead, fled with his new wife to a remote sheep farm in Scotland amid a sea of legal and personal woes. Despite the harsh conditions, the Scottish setting gave McCartney time to create, and it was here where this new band emerged. Wings then follows the group as they play unannounced shows at university halls, tour in sheared-off double-decker buses with their children, survive a robbery on the streets of Nigeria, and eventually perform blockbuster stadium shows on their world tour, all while producing some of the most enduring music of the time. with extraordinary recollections collected by Oscar-winning director Morgan Neville and edited into a genre-defining oral history by Ted Widmer. Wings transports the reader, as if on a magic carpet, to the grit and glamour of the 1970s. Much Ado About Nothing, a BBC Radio Shakespeare production, DB 134778, by William Shakespeare. Much Ado About Nothing is a comedy by William Shakespeare, first published in 1600. It is likely to have been first performed in the autumn or winter of 1598 to 1599, and it remains one of Shakespeare's most enduring and exhilarating plays on stage. Stylistically, it shares numerous characteristics with modern romantic comedies, including the two pairs of lovers, in this case the romantic leads Claudio and Hero, and their comic counterparts Benedick and Beatrice. The Cowboy and the Senorita, a biography of Roy Rogers and Dale Evans, DB 131873, by Howard Kazagian, Chris Entz, and Roy Rogers. Roy Rogers and Dale Evans ruled the West from the silver screen as the king of cowboys and the queen of the West. Off-screen, this husband and wife duo raised a family and lived the code of the West. Now in this new biography, named for their first feature film as a pair, the Rogers family shares the inside story of these beloved Western icons, detailing their personal struggles and rise to stardom, the lives of their children, the tragedies that befell their family, and their memories of Roy and Dale and Trigger and other sidekicks on the silver screen and behind the scenes.
How to Test Negative for Stupid and Why Washington Never Will, DB 133873, by John Kennedy. One of the most distinctive and funny politicians, Senator John Kennedy, the one from Louisiana, hailed by Politico as America's most quotable senator, offers his perspective and hilarious takes on the ridiculousness of political life in the scathingly witty takedown of Washington and its elite denizens. How to Test Negative for Stupid offers the senator's tongue-in-cheek guidebook through Washington, punctuated by his thoughts on various issues and humorous stories about life from Louisiana politics and inside the Senate. Nobody's Girl, a memoir of surviving abuse and fighting for justice, DB 133461, by Virginia Roberts Gouffre. The world knows Virginia Roberts Gouffre as Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's most outspoken victim, the woman whose decision to speak out helped send both serial abusers to prison, whose photograph with Prince Andrew catalyzed his fall from grace. But her story has never been told in full, in her own words, until now. In April 2025, Gouffre took her own life. She left behind a memoir written in the years preceding her death and stated unequivocally that she wanted it published. Nobody's Girl is the riveting and powerful story of an ordinary girl who would grow up to confront extraordinary adversity. Here, Gouffre offers an unsparing and definitive account of her time with Epstein and Maxwell, who trafficked her and others to numerous prominent men. She also details the molestation she suffered as a child, as well as her daring escape from Epstein and Maxwell's grasp at 19. Gouffre remade her life from scratch and summoned the courage to not only hold her abusers to account, but also advocate for other victims. The pages of Nobody's Girl preserve her voice and her legacy forever. 53 Days on Starvation Island, the World War II battle that saved Marine Corps aviation, DB 134796, by John R. Bruning. On August 20, 1942, 12 Marine dive bombers and 19 Marine fighters landed at Guadalcanal. Their mission, defeat the Japanese Navy and prevent it from sending more men and supplies to Starvation Island, as Guadalcanal was nicknamed. The Japanese were turning the remote, jungle-covered mountain in the South Solomon Islands into an air base from which they could attack the supply lines between the U.S. and Australia. The night after the Marines landed and captured the partially completed airfield, the Imperial Navy launched a surprise night attack on the Allied fleet offshore, resulting in the worst defeat of the U.S. Navy suffered in the 20th century, which prompted the abandonment of the Marines on Guadalcanal. The Marines dug in and waited for help, as those 31 pilots and 12 gunners flew against the Japanese, shooting down 83 planes in less than 2 months, while the dive bombers carried out over 30 attacks on the Japanese fleet. 53 Days on Starvation Island follows Major John L. Smith, a magnetic leader who became America's top fighter ace for the time. Captain Marion Carl, the Marine Corps' first ace, and one of the few survivors of his squadron at the Battle of Midway. He would be shot down and forced to make his way back to base through 25 miles of Japanese-held jungle. And Major Richard Magram, the lawyer-turned-dive bomber commander whose inexperienced men wrought havoc on the Japanese Navy.
This month, the State Library of Iowa is holding virtual author visits with the 3 authors of the All Iowa Reads selections for 2026. These are free and open to the public, but registration is required. First up is Kate Messner on Tuesday, June 9th at 1:30 p.m. She is the author of the kids selection, The Trouble with Heroes. Next is Alan Eskins, author of the adult selection, The Quiet Librarian. He will give his talk on Tuesday, June 16th at 6:30 p.m. And last but not least is T.L. Simpson on Wednesday, June 24th at 3 p.m. He is the author of Strong Like You, the teen selection for 2026. All sessions will be held via Zoom, and each author will be joined by a moderator to discuss their books, creative process, and hear questions from attendees. Attendees will have the option to submit a question ahead of time when registering, or may include a question in the chat during the event. To register for these events, go to the State Library of Iowa website at https://www.statelibraryofiowa.gov/.
The library had a great time at the downtown Des Moines Farmers Market last month. Thanks to all those who stopped by to say hello. It was a great morning of spreading awareness about our library, Braille literacy, and more. In conjunction with our summer reading program, our partners at the National Library Service, NLS, and the Braille Institute are hosting their own virtual program with more content and guests for teens and adults wanting to unearth a story. From June 15th to August 11th, 2026. If you want to take your summer reading a step further, we highly recommend adding this program to your calendar. It's an incredible opportunity to attend live Zoom webinars with authors, artists, national park rangers, and other compelling voices. Plus, they are dropping immersive narrated soundscapes every other week so you can audio travel through national parks. To learn more and add this to your summer reading program journey, go to www.brailleinstitute.org/summer-reading-program/.
The National Library Service's Many Faces of Bard program will be held Thursday, June 11th at 6 p.m. NLS's Smart Speaking to the Smart Speaker will be held Thursday, June 18th at 6 p.m. And That All May E-Read will be held Tuesday, June 23rd at 6 p.m. All programs are held via Zoom and the topics for each have not been released yet. Contact the library to get more information or go to www.loc.gov/NLS. Please don't hesitate to contact the library with any questions or comments at 515-281-1323 or by email at library@blind.state.ia.us. The library is open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Happy reading!